everybody.
Hi, friends. Well, from drizzly Salt Lake City, Utah,
It's Thank God I'm Atheist.
a podcast exploring religion, politics, and current events from two atheists just trying to survive out here in these United States.
I'm Frank Feldman.
And I'm Dan Beecher.
And coming up on the show today, we're going to be talking about, I guess, a statement from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, the Mormons, about the whole immigration thing that's going on.
That old thing.
in the United States at the moment, and sort of their take. They're joining the growing chorus of religious groups calling for fair treatment and whatnot. So we're going to get to that.
Spoiler alert! Boy, you just gave away the whole thing.
Well, if that's all it is, Dan, I don't know why we're talking about it.
Here's the thing. I was genuinely surprised that they actually came out with this thing. So yeah, there is stuff to talk about.
Yeah, excellent. All right. Well, first, some things happened this week, Dan, that we need to talk about. News of the week, important stories, consequential stories, Dan, such as, well, we were just talking about the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, which is what they demand they be called. They don't want to be called the Mormon Church, the LDS Church, or any of the other things that people have, picked up through the years of calling them.
You are more than happy to acquiesce to their demands.
Yes, because it's a succinct name.
It is.
The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. No,
if brevity is the soul of wit, then the Mormon Church is witless, and that's okay. Let's continue on.
A number of years ago, back in I guess it was 2018, the president of the church, Russell Nelson, made a big deal out of this whole "we're not Mormons anymore" thing, and this was like after his predecessors had spent a fortune on branding them as the Mormons.
Millions of dollars in PR campaigns.
Yeah, and like putting a positive spin on the name, right? And so, but apparently that entire time, as he was sitting close to the top of the church, but not at the top yet, Russell Nelson was seething and
just quietly boiling underneath his skin.
Came out and said that the church's full name was, quote, not negotiable, and that opting for shorthands like Mormon represented a, quote, major victory for Satan.
He basically said every time someone says Mormon, it makes Jesus cry.
It's the opposite of It's a Wonderful Life. Every time a bell rings,
a Mormon gets a tear.
Anyway, so taking this to its logical end, a Utah state legislator, has issued a bill in this session asking that the quote unquote Mormon cricket, which is the common name for a specific, actually not a cricket, insect that is officially the state insect as well of Utah. The Anabris simplex is the I guess the scientific name.
I had that once, but it's okay. An antibiotic clears it right up.
And like I said, it's not a cricket. It's a shield-backed katydid, which is interesting. I didn't even know we had katydids in Utah, but we do, and it's actually our state insect. But anyway, why are they called Mormon crickets? This is important.
God. Because of a dumb lie.
Yeah, Dan, how dare you? This is taught to young children in the church. I in fact was in a play of this story where it's because there was this famous incident in sort of early pioneer era in Utah where the Mormon settlers, the Mormon invaders, into Utah, had an infestation, right, of a plague of these insects that were devouring their crops. And so according to this legend, they prayed and prayed, and God sent a bunch of seagulls to eat the quote unquote crickets, and their crops were saved, and they lived through the winter.
You want to hear something dumb? If you want to find the Wikipedia article about this incident, you have to go to the article titled "Miracle of the Gulls."
Ooh. Yeah, there's actually a little monument downtown on church property.
Oh, it's not there anymore.
They took it down?
I think so. Or they may have taken it down only to put it back up again.
I hope they put it back up. Yeah, I liked that one. Anyway, so back to the renaming of the Mormon cricket. So one would not want another victory for Satan every time somebody refers to this insect as a Mormon cricket.
Even in the world of bugs, we don't want Satan to win.
And so Doug Owens, a Democrat in the Utah state legislature, but a Mormon, is the one who's pushing for this. And it kind of flies against, or goes against even the church's own advice on the use of the word Mormon, because they do allow in their own minds the use of it for things like the Mormon Trail. If it has sort of a historic use and is part of a name of something, right? Then they're okay with it. They're not going to raise a stink about it. And so he's kind of like, he's kind of misunderstanding the church's own guidance on this, even though they didn't say, they didn't mention the Mormon cricket specifically in their guidance. And then also it kind of, this article that I read about this, they talked to some sort of insect scientist, college professor person, who was just like, it's like, yeah, it's kind of, you have these common names of these insects, and if you change a name, you also change people's connection to the insect, right?
Right.
Or whatever animal might have sort of, kind of a group's name incorporated into it. And so he says, if we
stop calling them koala bears just because they're not bears, the cuteness goes down by 6%.
It's just called them, koala clap traps. Because they
koala
are
shitheads.
They're just, anyway, they're just chock full of VD, Dan, those things. They're disgusting little critters. Anyway, well, where was I? Oh, if you change the name, you change people's connection. And so with the Mormon cricket, this, if you start calling it, he sort of throws out, if you start calling it the Great Basin Shieldback Katydid, it just loses any kind of connection that people might feel to it, and maybe just strictly view it as the nuisance that it so often is.
Right.
And so
rather than the cute little bug that tried to kill all of the Mormons.
Right.
So which is that's what we should call it. Mormon killers.
Ooh. Yeah.
Instead of Mormon crickets.
Yeah. No, that doesn't seem right either, Dan.
It is funny though that they're the antagonists in the story. The gulls are the heroes and the crickets are the antagonists, and yet the Mormons seem totally fine making it the state insect just because it's the only insect that they have a story about.
Well, they should call them the Mormon gulls and the Satan bugs.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Because which is also why the California seagull is the state bird of Utah. Very funny. All right. Well, I'm gonna move us on to an update. Okay. I believe that we told this story back in 22, back in the year of our Lord 2022. And this is one of those heartbreaking stories where a family is part of a dumb, intense Christian sect that decides that medicine is against God's laws.
Right.
And a young girl died. She was diabetic.
Right.
She responded just fine to insulin. So insulin is the key, is the everything. They took her off her insulin at one point, and then and she went into a coma, and she went to the hospital, and they revived her. And at that time, the first round, the parents were both sentenced. Were both found guilty of some sort of negligence. The father was. I think they were sentenced to 6 months and 18 months. The father never actually went to jail. He served no time, but the mother served 5 months.
Okay.
But was on patrol. Here's the thing. She's in for 5 months, but just weeks after she gets home, they take the kid off of insulin again, and she dies.
Right. Good Lord.
So the question is, who's liable for this? Now, personally, I say it's Jesus. That's just me. But this time, it wasn't just the parents who were arrested. This time, there were 14 members of this little cult. It was, and this is, to be clear, this is so small. It is like basically 3 families.
Oh wow!
That
Jesus loves the most.
Have decided that they know the real truth about what Jesus loves.
Yeah.
And what the gospel is about. And so they have their own thing. 14 members were all sort of swept up in this thing and were tried. They offered, apparently none of them, they offered no evidence in their defense. They did not seek legal representation. And apparently Jesus did not do a good job of lawyering for them. The mom and dad actually were charged with murder.
Oh.
But they were not convicted of murder. But all 14 of the people, including the mom and dad, were convicted of manslaughter.
Okay.
So they're all Now this is in Australia, so it's tricky to figure out what the actual implications of that are in terms of what the punishments will be. But all of them will be sentenced next month for manslaughter.
That's tragic, but good. Right?
Yeah, I mean I mean, something has to happen. Like the message has to get out that it is not that you can't do this.
I know. And I wish that that message would actually mean anything to people who think this way.
Yeah.
It won't give anybody pause if they think that Jesus is telling them to take their child off of insulin and do it, and because they need to have a faith healing. It's not going to change anything. But these people need to be punished, and they need to be taken out of circulation, at least for a while, and maybe given time to think on their own outside of their cult and see if something can happen. But this is not something that's going to stop anybody else from doing it.
Probably not. I mean, it might stop some, but it's not going to stop people. There will always be people, religious nutballs. One of the messages that I do think has a chance of getting out, at least I hope, comes actually from the sister, the young sister of, she's not young, the older sister of the girl who died, who left this religious group at 16 because she was a lesbian, and apparently they don't like them either.
But that's surprising.
Shocking, right? But this girl, Jade, has basically been speaking out and saying, that while this outcome is good, these people being brought to justice is a good thing. They failed the little girl. They failed Elizabeth, they had the opportunity. They saw the neglect. They had the opportunity to remove children from that environment, from that home, and they failed to do it.
Yeah.
And maybe that voice will make a difference. And the next time they won't be afraid, the authorities won't be afraid to be accused of religious persecution or whatever. And they'll just say, fuck it. You're not taking care of your children. You're done.
That's a great point. Yeah. Well,
somebody's got to do it.
I know. I hate these stories so much, though. Like,
I know,
because it's just so fucking tragic, and
there's zero good outcome.
Yeah.
There's no good possible outcome.
Yeah.
These people going to jail for holding to convictions that they thought they got from God, that doesn't feel good to me. I don't feel happy about that. These are people who were doing, who were doing what they thought was right.
Sure.
That doesn't feel good to me. They're wrong, and I know that they're wrong, but they lost their daughter, and I don't believe that they didn't love their daughter.
Yeah. Okay. Sure. They loved their daughter, but they're.
I'm glad that they're going to jail.
Their grip on or lack of grip on reality, right? Yeah. Is a proven danger to other people.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that when you've slipped that far, you need to be, jail is just lock them up. These people are.
I'm not saying I'm not disagreeing with that. I'm just saying I don't rejoice in it.
Yeah. And like, there's a part of me that's also like, when people have gone this far, can we please not, like, isn't there something, I've said this before on the show and we got some feedback and I can't remember what it was. But like, can't we just, isn't there something wrong with them? Isn't there something mentally wrong with these people? Right? That is diagnosable and treatable. Like, there's a line there. Like, if you want to go out and believe that, like, I don't know, that cotton fibers are of the devil and you can't wear them, right? Like, who are you harming? The cotton growers, maybe? Like, what harm? You're not doing harm to other people, right?
Yeah.
But when your beliefs actually let people die, there's got to be something, some lack of grip on reality there. And I don't know what it is.
So many people in the atheist community would say that just believing in a religion is a lack of a grip on reality.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily, I don't go that far personally. I think it's a very human thing. I think humans are just predestined to believe bad, dumb things. So to me, the diagnosable problem is humanity.
That's okay. Fair enough. Fair enough. All you have to do is look around and see that one. All right. Well, Dan.
Yeah.
Back to these United States where all the good stories are these days. And somebody who we've talked about, a name that we've said before on the show, I know, not because he's anybody of real note, but because his name is absolutely delightful. Dusty Deevers.
Oh, Dusty D.
Oklahoma State Senator Dusty Deevers, who is obsessed with pornography. Dan.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely obsessed. He
probably in more ways than just the way you're about to talk about. But we cannot.
There is a little, the lady doth protest him too much or whatever.
Yes.
What's the line? Did I get
That's
it right?
It.
Yeah.
That's it.
There's a bit of protesting here that makes me wonder if he doesn't have just a raging porn habit and he needs some help. And the help that he wants is for Oklahoma to completely outlaw porn totally. Gone.
Yes.
He's proposed a new law that would send any person who produces, distributes, or possesses porn to prison for up to 10 years. And it's important to point out here that pornography is something that even the United States Supreme Court has had a difficult time defining exactly what it is, right?
Yeah.
There's a line between where things start being quote unquote obscene, and it's hard to say exactly what it is.
And and that's a real problem when you're trying to make laws about it, because you have to draw a line at some point. And where do you draw that line? Where does it stop being art and start become, and begin to be smut?
Probably when the penises come out. Of the viewer. The viewer's penis comes out. That's probably when it stops.
Listen, I was a teenage boy once. I don't think that there were a lot of things that I don't think most people would qualify as porn. The JCPenney catalog is not going to be.
Just because Dan Beecher, as a teenager, found,
as a tween was.
Therein lies the difficulty, right, of defining what porn is. Mm-hmm. Anyway, he's just hell bent on getting rid of all porn. He also has a bunch of other laws that he's trying to get passed. He would like to make it illegal for a person to order and use abortion pills. Okay, that seems. That just seems like normal fare for the Republican Party at this point. Yeah. He wants to prohibit no-fault divorces.
That one's amazing.
Yeah.
The fact that the right is now going. I mean, what this is just a whole bunch of men who are seeing that their wives are very displeased and like really ready to leave, and they are also seeing that all of their divorced friends are lonely forever because they're worthless sacks of shit and no one wants to be around them.
Yeah.
They're trying to prevent that. They're trying to make you legally have to stay married to them.
Maybe it was his wife that has the raging
porn addiction.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm liking it. I'm liking this theory.
Anyway, he also wants to offer a $2,500 tax credit to people who opt into covenant marriages. Which I think we've talked about before. Those are the ones that can only be dissolved in cases of abuse, adultery, or abandonment. So basically, like 1950s marriages, or maybe even earlier than that, to be honest. 1750s marriages. And so all of these laws are in an effort to roll back the far left in Oklahoma, which the article is very good at pointing out, or very good to point out that the Republicans have held all three branches of Oklahoma government since 2010. So the left and its sort of out of controlness in Oklahoma is kind of that's a lunatic position to take. The left has had undue influence on Oklahoma.
I love like the idea of the far left of Oklahoma is like the fairly far right of anywhere else in the universe. Like in Europe, the Oklahoma far left is not even a center right position. It's pretty far right of center.
That's ridiculous. There are plenty of liberal people in Oklahoma. However, like so many red states, and Oklahoma does really sort of take the cake on this.
Though Idaho is really working to get mentioned in the same sentence.
Yeah. There are a lot of details in all these like anti-porn laws and whatnot, but let's just leave it at Dusty Deevers is obsessed with porn. I think that might actually...
That's a good name for the episode.
It might be, because that's a line that needs to be out there and circulating in the world, because he is. And I need to know why why is he obsessed with it? Like, it's anyway.
It's a little scary. Yeah. All right, Dusty, calm down. My next story actually begins with the idea of one Elon Musk having made an interesting gesture at the inauguration of President Butthead.
Yeah.
For those of you who, everybody saw it. We all saw him do a Nazi salute.
Yeah. Multiple times.
I am on record as having said that, is it possible that he was just doing an exuberant, my heart goes out to you gesture? Okay, maybe possible. Let's look at the rest of the context, and because everyone on the right was like, the context, he said, my heart will go out to you, the context. Well, okay, let's look at a greater context in which he has enabled Nazism on his platform, and he has supported far right, basically Nazi regime parties in Europe, and he is just so openly a dickhead.
Yeah.
And then also the context of, has he come, like, okay, look, if I had somehow accidentally, without thinking, thrust my hand out, palm down in a Nazi style.
As it's an easy thing to accidentally do.
Let's just say I was just feeling exuberant and only one of my hands wanted to throw itself out into the world in that moment.
And you were thinking to yourself, my heart will go out to you. It just seems like such a natural gesture.
Let's just say that I did that. And then the world came crashing down and said, excuse me, that was a Nazi salute you just did.
Right.
My immediate reaction would be a vociferous and full-throated rebuke of Nazi ideals, of Nazism in general. It would be a heartfelt apology. It would be like I would be screaming from the rooftops about how I disavow everything that is to do with Nazism. It would not be hard for me. That would be a very easy statement for me to make. The fact that this has not been forthcoming from Elon is everything I need to know. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. No, totally.
Anyway, the second part of the story is that, the right has been desperately claiming that this wasn't don't be stupid, it's not a Nazi salute, and how dare you, and blah, blah, blah. And he has autism, so autistic people are too stupid to know what a Nazi salute is anyway. And,
what?
The autism thing was a big deal that they made of. They didn't say stupid, but the claim seemed to be that an autistic person doesn't know the difference between one gesture and another. I don't know what the claim is actually. Anyway, then the left started to say, and this was all over sort of TikTok and all this stuff. Okay, if you're defending that gesture, you do it. If you think it's harmless, if you think it's not a real thing, if you think you can just sort of accidentally do it, you do it. Video yourself doing it, and let's see tag your boss if you think it's okay to do it.
Okay.
And a few people sort of did, but like kind of didn't do it right. They did their palm up, and they were like, "My heart goes out to you." Anyway, one of the people who decided to do it was the Reverend Calvin Robinson. Who is a priest in a tiny, okay, when I tell you that he's a priest in the Anglican Catholic Church, first of all, that sounds like a contradiction. But second of all, it sounds real, but it's actually a very small little sort of microsect that broke off from the Anglican Communion back when they started to let lady people be priests and bishops. They did not like that.
Okay.
So they are a very conservative, very stupid group of believers. But this guy was too much even for them. He got fired because he was speaking at an event that was like a anti abortion event, and he felt the need to end it by saying, my heart goes out to you," and then doing the tap on the heart and the Nazi salute. He just did it.
Oh my God. Oh.
Which proves to be even too much for that piece of shit little sect that he was. This is not the first time he's been kicked out of a sect, by the way, is what I understand. But yes, he is.
That's quite the thing.
His priest license, I guess, has been revoked, and he is no longer going to be priesting.
Okay, all right.
But he said the thing that kills me is he said this was a bit of dry wit. He said it was he was just sort of trolling the abortion rights supporters or whatever. But no, you can't. Here's what I think is happening. The dog whistle has turned into a whistle. They're still pretending like we can't hear it and trying to gaslight us when they blow it and saying, "No, you can't hear that." And we're saying we can. Not only is it's not a dog whistle, we can actually just hear the whistle now. Yeah. And they're like, no, you can't. So
yeah, it's wild.
Enjoy that, everybody. That's where we're at. These are the opening salvos. This is the beginning.
Yeah, it feels like like testing the water. Right. And seeing what the reaction will be and seeing how far they can go. Right. It is like, I don't know who, I can't wrap my head around who would do a Nazi salute and not think that there would be consequences. Right.
Yeah. But there's also like support.
I know. And that's
who they're talking
to. They're testing, right? They're like, doing, I mean, it's so brash and bizarre and weird for Elon Musk to do this, right? In the first place. And and then
listen,
and then people rush to his defense, and it's like, it's beyond baffling to me.
I think when a far right splinter sect of a religion comes out with a really good anti-Nazi statement, and Elon Musk can't.
Yeah.
Things are a bit topsy-turvy. Like, their statement was good. Let me read it. It just says, "We believe that those who mimic the Nazi salute, even as a joke or an attempt to troll their opponents, trivialize the horror of the Holocaust and diminish the sacrifice of those who fought against its perpetrators.
Yeah.
Such actions are harmful, divisive, and contrary to the tenets of Christian charity." Why isn't that's the message that should be screamed from the mountaintop? Like, every Christian in the world should be yelling that.
Yeah.
But
somehow it's not happening.
Well, I mean, lest we forget, the Nazis were Christian. So
how dare you, Dan?
How dare I?
How dare you besmirch Christianity? I'm sorry, Nazis that way.
I don't think it looks good either way, either direction.
All right, Dan. This is I guess it's a little bit of an update story. We talked about this fellow, this Iraqi man in Sweden who liked to burn Qurans. This was kind of a big deal a couple years ago. Really caused some problems for Sweden internationally as they were trying to figure out how to balance freedom of speech with the international kerfuffle that this was causing for them. I mean, this guy, by the name of Salwan Momika, a Christian Iraqi, and I guess you could say an anti-Islam activist. He got a lot of attention, and and because Sweden wouldn't just like punish him on behalf of Islam, there were violent protests that erupted in the Middle East, including a crowd storming the Swedish embassy in Baghdad, Iraq expelling Sweden's ambassador, and also banning business with Sweden and canceled work permits for staff at a Swedish telecommunications company working in the country. And so Sweden has had this guy on trial, and they were about to issue the verdict. The courts were, where he was accused of inciting ethnic hatred, I guess was the crime. And well, this week he was shot dead.
Oh no!
During a TikTok live stream.
Oh my God! On live, he was streaming live.
Yeah, it's not clear at this point.
Or were the murderers streaming live?
No, he was in the middle of doing his own live stream. Apparently, he'd gotten pretty active on TikTok. It's where he was engaged in his denunciations of Islam. And I mean, this guy. I mean, if you know enough about Islam to be pissed off at it as a thing, you should also be aware that Muslims have a tendency to get really pissed off when you do things like burning Qurans. And
they don't take things lying down.
Yeah. And while I feel like people should be free to burn a Quran in protest, right? In Western societies, right? We need to have freedoms to protest, and there's nothing that should be protected about one holy book versus another holy book or any other book, right?
We should have the right to symbolically to make a statement,
right?
A symbolic statement.
However, there's also then the wisdom of doing that action or not.
Yeah, I don't think Frank or I is going to be burning a Quran on TikTok.
No, absolutely, decidedly not.
We support that action and the right to have that action, and you will not catch me doing it.
Not one I would do, because again, I mean, just that action. So he would burn Qurans and stomp on them and so forth, and so he had to be like put under police protection. I guess his refugee status was revoked by the Swedish government because apparently he had lied. He had misrepresented some things in the application. He'd omitted some important detail of some kind. But they also were in a position where they couldn't deport him back to Iraq, because he would absolutely just be killed on sight, right?
Yes, of course.
And so he tried to get refugee status in Norway. Norway denied him.
Norway was like, fuck no, man.
Yeah, you can go back to Sweden where you've caused plenty of damage. I mean, really, he has caused damage to Sweden. And it was they've had a really difficult time. Actually, it sounds like figuring out exactly how to deal with him. But he was, I mean, I guess not that difficult of a time. He was on trial. They were trying to address the issue in some way. But yeah, so that he met his end. Apparently there have been, so the prime minister, the Swedish prime minister, has suggested that the killing could be linked to a foreign power. However, the government has not said which foreign power was behind it.
Oh, wow.
But there has been a history, I guess, in particular, Iraq sort of recruiting people in Sweden, which has had like an uptick in violent crime recently. I hadn't heard this. Sweden is leading Europe in gun murder rate.
Oh wow,
which is wild.
There's
which
very
I'm
little
sure
else
is
to
still
do in Sweden. Sweden doesn't have a lot to do.
But I mean, it is Europe, so like if like 4 people were
Right.
killed with a gun in Sweden, that's probably enough to be the highest in Europe. But I obviously exaggerate. But
I wonder.
it's not our gun murder rate. Let's put it that way.
Right. One wonders if there are any Americans who are like suddenly who would hear that and be like, "Oh, maybe I need to check out Sweden. Sounds pretty cool."
Because of their high gun murder rate?
Yes. Sounds like they're doing something right up there.
If I had to pick a European country to immigrate to, I'd pick Sweden.
Yeah, man.
Because, I mean...
They're not fucking around up there. They know what they're doing.
I just don't know what I would do if I went 3 days without hearing a gunshot.
Oh, ours is a messed up country.
Yeah, I think the whole West is having a problem, but we are leading the pack.
Yeah.
Probably by a long way at the moment.
Certainly.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, all right. That's I guess that's sad that guy got shot. And
I think it was he was doing something that was ill-advised, but he definitely didn't deserve that end.
No.
And for just doing something that he felt was important as a way of protesting, exactly what I'm. Aside from his hatred of Islam, I'm not quite sure. But
yeah, it's all a little confusing. But there you go. All right. Well, I'm going to close us out in Madison, Wisconsin, home to the FFRF. Now,
Yes.
the FFRF we hear a lot about. This is the Freedom from Religion Foundation. They do a lot of good work in terms of defending, the rights of people, keeping church and state separated and that sort of thing. But usually when we hear about them suing somebody, it is on behalf of a, some person or group. And this time it's on behalf of them. They are suing on their own behalf. And that's interesting to me. And the case is fascinating. Apparently the, Wisconsin state, or maybe it's Madison itself. I think it's the city of Madison has somehow found a way to carve out tax-free status for 2 specific student housing centers.
Oh.
One, Pres House, owned by the Presbyterian Student Center Foundation, and the other, Lumen House, which is owned by St. Raphael's Congregation, which is Catholic. These two, they're both student housing, like I said, but they're not free. They're not charitable. They are just housing. They charge market rates.
Oh.
But because they are associated with religion, the government has decided to try to carve out these places where they don't have to pay taxes.
No.
Which means that all the other taxpayers in the area have to make up the difference.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like this is lost revenue.
That's how subsidies work.
Yeah. Yeah.
like somebody's paying for it. Right, for the government to operate,
right?
You
and for the services,
so
and
presumably, if it's a large amount like that, that's somebody's picking up the bill.
Yeah, exactly. So part of that somebody is the FFRF. They're there.
Oh.
They are actually, they are actually paying. They're a nonprofit, but because of how narrowly the wording of these laws are worded, it literally only includes these 2. There was one law that was passed that helped out the first one, Pres House or whatever it was. Yeah, Pres House. And then there was another law that then was narrowly worded so that it only included Lumen House. It was like, and now we can add this thing, but if it was built and operating before 2013, and if it was blah, blah, blah. And it was like literally they were written so narrowly, without saying anything about religion, but they were written so narrowly that only these two houses could participate. And apparently Lumen House, when their thing came through, actually bragged about it. And they were like, yes, we thank the legislature for passing this, just as it was, which helped us out just as it was designed to do.
Wow.
So the FFRF are suing, and they're just saying, if we wanted to build student housing, we wouldn't be able to participate in this. And that's just patently unfair.
Mm-hmm.
And in a world where groups like FFRF and American Atheists and Americans United for church and state separation, when all of these have to be desperately careful about what lawsuits they now file, because almost anything could be taken up to the Supreme Court, where it could be where the nutballs could just rule in nutball ways. And then, in trying to fight the good fight, they've actually made things worse. Like, they don't have that much they can do now. It used to be, if you saw a clear example of the church-state separation being violated, you would sue about it, and then the courts would be reasonable and eventually say, yeah, you're right, that's bad. But they don't do that anymore. So it's a very tricky time for them. So this seems like at least one small thing. At least it's something for them to do. I just feel that's not a hopeful message, but there you go. That's as good as I got.
Dan. All right. Well done.
Yeah.
You found it eventually.
Yeah. If someone would like to scold me for not being hopeful or whatever, please feel free to reach out to us. podcast@thankgodimatheist.com.
Or call and leave us a voicemail message. We'd love to hear from you. The telephone number is 424-666-8442. Stick around. There's more show coming up.
Well, Frank, we had some folks write into us.
We did.
And I'm going to read what they had to say. First, this is from Kevin, who says, "Greetings, Frank and Dan. I was interested to hear your thoughts on the word spiritual, and I must say I share your view of the word. Spiritual implies a spirit where none exists. We need a new word. I don't think we evoked. I don't think we evolved. You'll recall that I said a thing about this, but he says, I don't think we evolved to require/desire spirituality. I believe these are echoes of the wonder we experienced as infants. As youngsters, we have no experience with reality and have magical thinking. As we mature, if religion is taught as an explanation for the reality and a replacement for our magical thinking, we accept that vision and we desire that reality, as fictitious as it is. We did evolve a desire for a community of people with shared experience. If we consider Dunbar's number, I didn't bother to look up what that is, that community can be rather small. A scout troop conquering the wilderness, a patrol in a combat zone, or neighbors banding together in a disaster. Think Paradise, California. I believe religion hijacks that desire and replaces it with a congregation and plays on our childish magical thinking to build a spiritual desire. I also think religion divides us into us and them to create a separate community, even where that community doesn't exist. To me, this also explains religion's obsession with sex. Little can be more transcendent than the petit mort. That means an orgasm. And it has nothing to do with a god. It's also outside of the control of all those not involved. I'm personally transported by the guitar duet in Freebird and the opening bars of the second movement of Dvorak's Symphony for the New World. Looking into the Grand Canyon was astounding, and looking up into the Milky Way is also always awe-inspiring. I don't feel the need for a transcendental experience or medically assisted awareness, but that's just me. My bucket list includes seeing Petra and Jordan, the Eiffel Tower, the Colosseum, etc. As Maya Angelou said, this is a wonderful day. I haven't seen this one before. Anyway, I think that's an interesting point. I certainly won't argue what we did or did not evolve to do because I'm not an evolutionary biologist. But
right.
Interesting.
Yeah.
There you go. Sam also wrote in to and sent an image which I texted to you earlier.
Yes.
Which is apparently came from the Satanic Temple. Sam just says, "I thought you all would get a kick out of this." Now, I should describe it. It's it's a hand with the middle finger up. It's flipping us the bird, and it has a ring on it with a green sort of shield and the letters CTR in it. Now, for all of the ex-Mormons who are listening to this, or current Mormons who are listening to this, a CTR ring is a Mormon thing. To Mormons it stands for choose the right. And these days that doesn't mean morally. It means politically. But what it was supposed to mean is like, do the right thing, and they give it to 8-year-olds, and then they're like, yeah, wear this ring around, and then we all promptly like threw it away and lost.
You threw yours away? Damn.
No, I'm sure I lost it. I'm sure it meant something to me back then, but I instantly lost it.
I treasured mine.
Yeah. But there are also some Mormon adults who have, nicer ones made
That's
for
when
themselves.
It gets cringy.
It gets
like
kind
a little
cringy.
thing that little kids wear around, whatever. It's religious indoctrination, and feel what you will about that. But like when an adult is walking around with a CTR ring, it's problematic.
It's dumb. Anyway, Samra, apparently the Satanic Temple, they did this image with flipping the bird with the CTR ring on, but it said choose to resist.
Yeah, okay.
And I like choose to resist.
Yeah,
I think
cute.
That's fun. So thanks, Sam, for sending that in. And like Sam says, now I almost want to go out and buy one. But yeah, get it in red instead of green or something. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Frank, do we have anybody to thank?
We do indeed, Dan. We have a new teacher, somebody who edited their membership. This is something you can do, everybody.
Yeah.
From deacon to teacher. So
exciting.
A big thanks to Beelzebub.
Oh, I like that, Beelzebub.
Beelzebub.
That's perfect. I love it. All right.
And if you'd like to join Beelzebub in supporting the show or increasing your membership, go to our website, thankgodimatheist.com/donate, and that has links to go to PayPal or Patreon. And as always, Dan, we have our top donor to thank, our Lord and Savior, Davis.
More show coming up. All right, Frank.
Dan.
The Mormon Church is a.
I'm
literally blocks away.
The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, Dan. We already talked about this.
So the Mormon Church, I'm literally blocks away from their headquarters, as I was trying to say before you tried to make me obey
to
their
say
edicts.
their name, Dan.
I'm choosing to use their dead name. Anyway, there they are. The Mormons are out there, and they are, in large part, just as hateful as many conservative Christian sects. They are not welcoming to LGBTQ people, even though they sometimes claim they are, and then sometimes they don't. But what apparently they just came out with a statement in which they are reasonably unequivocal about their support of, at very least, feeding and clothing their neighbors.
All their neighbors.
And if that's the interesting thing, because here's what we know. This is a church that has $150 billion or more. You know what I mean? Like
just sitting around.
Ungodly sums of money. But what when they do charity, what very, very little charity they do, and make no mistake, this church does very, very little charity.
Especially in the context of their wealth.
Yeah, right. Especially, but even
because they do a fair amount of stuff, right?
Yeah, but
they do stuff. I will give them credit. They do some charitable to work.
Sure.
But if they did it in proportion to their means, they could solve world hunger, essentially. Right?
It is wildly disproportional.
Yeah.
So it's interesting that they came out with this statement. Now, the statement is fairly short, but it's basically just reiterating that a person's status as an immigrant doesn't make them subhuman. And that's almost to be celebrated in the United States at this time. It's kind of crazy. What they said was, now this is in the context, of course, of the fact that, the Trump administration has decided that, churches can't be sanctuaries. Nowhere can be sanctuaries anymore. And blah, blah, blah. But so their first thing is, number one, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints obeys the law.
They're suddenly Richard Nixon.
Yes. I think that's right. Don't you think that, sort of just vibe-wise, that's correct? Anyway, number two, we follow Jesus Christ by loving our neighbors. The Savior taught that the meaning of neighbor includes all of God's children. Now, that's kind of crazy to me because traditionally, we were talking about what little charity they actually do. It's mostly for their own people.
Yeah, exactly.
Like they keep it in house. You know what I mean? Like if you are a Mormon and you can't pay your bills, they'll help you. If you've been,
that's true. Yeah,
and they'll feed your family. So it is interesting that now they're saying, because they don't offer those services to non-Mormons in general. They do some charity for non-Mormon people, but in general, like the vast majority of what you see is in-house.
Right.
So for them to say that it includes all of God's children is kind of a big deal. And then they say, and this is where I kind of roll my eyes because it's important. But we already talked about how much money they have. We seek to provide basic food and clothing as our capacity allows to those in need, regardless of their immigration status. We are especially concerned about keeping families together. Now, that last bit I have no truck with. That last bit I think is great. It is a direct reviling of the first Trump administration's policy of separating families at the border, and I think that that's wildly important.
Right.
The first part, when you say we want to provide basic food and clothing as our capacity allows, guess what your capacity allows, dickheads? Yeah,
it allows for a fuck ton.
You could literally, everyone should be fed and clothed then. Every time I see an unfed, a hungry person who's cold, that's your fault.
Yeah. They don't even do it in their own backyard.
In their own fucking backyard.
Right. And they're claiming that they have some larger mandate than that.
Yeah.
And so great lip service, Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
Yeah.
Right.
What are you doing?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm grateful that they made this statement. I really am, because I think that there's no chance that most of here's the thing. These things go out to or get noticed by reporters, and they go out to certain news outlets. I found it in the religion news service in RNS. They don't. It's not like this is read over the pulpit. It's not like the on the ground members see or hear this.
Well,
unless they happen to read RNS,
right? And even if they did read it over the pulpit, a large proportion of their membership would fucking roll their eyes.
Yes.
Like, I mean, we know,
like J.D. Vance at a bishop's sermon.
Yeah. it would completely fall on deaf ears, unfortunately. But I agree. Like if,
but it's there to point to.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If a Mormon comes up to me and is like, we got to get rid of all these immigrants, I can be like, that's not what your church says. Your church says to be generous to them and clothe them and feed them.
Well, they're not saying where they're being clothed, right?
Clothe and feed them back in Mexico.
It doesn't mean that you can't work to change their status as an immigrant.
Yeah.
Right. Like if you put them back in their own country, they're no longer an immigrant. Solve that problem.
I suppose. It's anyway. It's a weird time in the world when I see a conservative, even quasi-Christian sect actually hold to anything that their main dude said. I'm surprised.
Yeah.
And pleasantly, but surprised.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's wild. Good for them. Good for them.
Question mark. With addenda.
Are they? But again, the proof is in the pudding, right? Like, are they actually going to change their own behavior? Is this an admission of not maybe guilt, but that they aren't doing enough, right?
Yeah.
That's not though. That's not what I heard.
No.
Right.
No,
I didn't hear we're going to change our way and actually provide
right
according to our means.
Yeah.
Right. Because it's ludicrous for them to say something like that. Absolutely ludicrous. Because unless that is accompanying a statement that they're changing their policies, right?
Yeah.
And changing who they help and to what extent, then it's just words.
And that's what it is.
Yeah.
It is just
and
words.
It's good. They're good words, right? They're good words. Well done, Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Well done. You said some words.
You got the words right. You got the words right. Just take a few more steps.
Yeah. Yeah.
Any steps would be great.
Yeah. Start doing it. I see far too many homeless people in this city, right?
So many that could just be housed instantly.
They could completely solve the problem.
Yeah.
But they won't.
But they won't.
They don't and they won't.
Alas. Okay. Well, friends, if you would like to have any input, if you would like us to know what you think about this or any of the things we've talked about, we'd love to hear from you. Podcast at thankgodimatheist.com.
Or call and leave us a voicemail message. The telephone number is 424-666-8442.
Yeah. To support the show, just please do so and go to thankgodimatheist.com/donate.
This episode was edited by Roger Gowdy, and music was provided by the Red Rock Hot Club and Gordon Johnston.
Hey, thanks to all y'all for tuning in. We sure do appreciate you.
Thanks so much. Bye-bye.
Thank God I'm Atheist is a production of TGIA Media, LLC, copyright 2024, all rights reserved.